Hi guys, welcome to lesson 3. We are going to take the Myers-Briggs personality test. The link is in the resources. And what you're going to do, I'm going to include a PDF file for every one of the 16 personality types. Okay. In this video, I'm going to go over my personal personality type and how I can reflect, if you will, on why I've never found my Mr. Right, right? Okay, so that doesn't mean I didn't try. I absolutely tried, but without knowing who I am, epic fail. Just throwing that out there, and I'm totally fine and perfectly at peace with all of my relationships of my past. I just know and I accept, and I'm I feel very blessed and abundant that it never worked out with anybody I've ever been in love with or even thought that I was in love with, right? So my personality, I've taken the test several times over a course of 5 years or so. My personality is one of the two most rarest personalities in the world. I am an INFP, and I'm just going to go over line by line what does that mean? Like, who does that make me? And if you've been following me on either RSquared or on my YouTube channels or even on Facebook, you will know, it'll be like, aha, this is why Shauna is Shauna. This is why she does what she does or says what she says, right? All right, so it'll all come clear to you very, very soon what the deepest parts of your personality, what this test will reveal for you. Based on the PDFs that I upload into the course, you will see a breakdown for each of the 16 personality types. But for this video, I'm going to use me as an example. Okay, so aside from what I want out of life, right? This is who I am. This is what I value in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, in my being, in my whole aspect of me. The things that I value the most are working toward a common good for all of humanity. Okay. So check out this channel, like my YouTube channel. If you go back a couple of years ago, you'll see a few videos that I posted where I'm talking about, gossiping and bullying and, like the common good, right? I value sticking up for the kid that is getting bullied in the schoolyard. I value sticking up for the underdog. I will literally go to bat for an underdog because if it's going to help the humanity or the common good in that community, then that's what I'm going to stand up for, right? In business, I had a nonprofit organization called Will BDD. This was before Uber, that as soon as Maryland, my home state, changed the laws about drinking and driving, first offense, you need an interlock on your car. I created a nonprofit organization that was literally a designated driver. I Will BDD. I had a van, I got it vehicle wrapped. I had very, very few supporters, right? But I spent my own money, and the guy I was dating at the time spent his own money on building this up. So you can see why I dated him in the first place. I found a common ground with him on a greater good, right? So great guy. I found a common ground with him. He also valued the greater good. So that is why I dated him. Now, there's other things about the relationship and about his personality versus my personality that I just wasn't going for. And it didn't work out. So we, aside from that, some local limousine company found it offensive that I was taking, or that we were taking, New Year's Eve reservations for a designated driver service. And, we got shut down because I wasn't going to pay the permitting and the insurance associated with having a limousine company, which is a for-profit business. I set it up as a nonprofit. So then a year later, Uber was invented, right? Okay, so that's an example in business of what I would move passionately for. Let's talk about RSquared, the common greater good. I can certainly charge, $50, $89, $99, $399 for each of my courses, but I have cognitive dissonance in that. It goes against my values. If there is a teenager or a woman that is stuck in a domestic violence situation that could really use my course or any portion of my course, I would not be able to sleep at night if I had to charge her, or if she, somehow found $300 or $90 to pay for the course for me to help her become empowered to leave her abuser. It just didn't sit well. So I went outside of the box. I don't have to be like everybody else on online courses, right? I just added a thing on the bottom of each course, on the last lesson of each course that says, hey, here's my PayPal link. If you feel like you want to pay for this class, do it. Here's the link, right? And you pay what you afford, whatever. I don't do this for the money. I do this to help people because it's what I value. Okay. All right. So working toward a common good, recognizing the uniqueness in every person. There are no two people the same in this world, right? Especially children. Children are our future, okay? Teach them well and let them lead the way, right? Who said that? Whitney Houston, right? Everybody is different. You cannot expect, and this is what really burns me up and makes me extremely passionate about, a controlling parent who want to see the glorification of what they never were come out of their child. Well, that's selfish. You don't bear offspring and create lives so they can see their worth inside of that child, right? That's super narcissistic. And if you go to the playlist, I added a video about that just 2 days ago. If you go to my YouTube channel and check out, I think I put it on Eye of the Tiger, but I might have put it on Communities We Love on as well, where a narcissistic parent are really going against the grain there. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing by loving their child unconditionally when they expect their child to live out their own aspirations. Go to college. You must get straight A's. You must be an engineer. You must be a lawyer or a doctor. That is absolutely not going to fly in my world because it's narcissistic. The individual parent has the narcissistic traits and tendencies to basically exert their own power and control over their offspring for them to grow up and make themselves feel grandiose, right? It's a narcissistic supply that they're creating for themselves. And that's exactly what this whole thing is about, like the Parents Rocks, right? The very first video that I did about the Parents Rocks, that's exactly what it's talking about. Okay, so recognizing the uniqueness in every person is something I highly value. I don't want to see eye to eye with anybody. If you see eye to eye with me, maybe I need to pivot because I don't want to be like you and I don't want you to be like me, right? I want to help you discover what is unique inside of you. I digress. Insist on reflection time alone, especially when consequences are suffered. So good, bad, or indifferent. If I made a decision and I made a mistake and now I'm suffering the consequences, I need to take some time to go within and really reflect on what made me make that choice, right? And I expect the same from my children. If they make a mistake and they do something wrong, I expect them to reflect. So I'm not the parent that's going to beat their ass. I'm the parent that's going to make them take the time to auto write 300 times, I will never lie to my mother again, right? During the first few sentences, they're thinking about what they're writing. After a while, It's just automatic. And now they're in their head contemplating why they did what they did. That is time to reflect, right? So I am the person that would want any other, if I was a teacher, say 5th grade teacher, I would want my students in my classroom to reflect on their own behavior, good, bad, or indifferent. So I'd probably have 20 minutes of quiet time where, they journal what happened last night at home, maybe like the warm-up writing in the English class, right? Language arts. Okay, kids, 5-minute writing. Let's write about what happened in your home last night. And if they reflect like that, good, bad, or indifferent, maybe they had a wonderful dinner with mom and dad, or maybe it just didn't go good. Maybe they got in trouble. That would be the time that the student would take to reflect, right? Okay, so building a vision that is achievable. That is extremely important to me. If I didn't think that I could achieve touching the lives of millions of people, that would be the big dream, right? All over the world, or even 10 people all over the world. We've already reached 20 people signing up for RSquared Rediscovering You. So let's just say the aspirations would be 100 million people subscribe to my YouTube channel, and maybe a third of that, on RSquared, just taking random courses, right? That's an achievable dream. It's an achievable goal. It's not unrealistic as long as I am adding value to the people that take my courses by changing and transforming their lives in one little way. Then I am doing something, right? So building a vision that's achievable is super important to me. I'm not all about all the unicorns and rainbows and sunflowers. I don't dream like that. What I dream about is how I can help humanity. Okay, so the next section in this PDF file for INFP would be how I approach data, right? So the spark in a person's eyes is the most important indicator to me that I'm successful at whatever it is I'm doing. Let's take real estate, okay? That entire career, the job satisfaction for me was being able to hand my client the keys to their new home and seeing their face, that spark. Or as a loan officer, calling my client and saying, congratulations, we have a clear to close. Your loan is approved. You're done. No more guesswork. You're done. You got an approval. When do you want to close? Tomorrow? The next day? That excitement in their voice, that sparkle, that spark, that is what drives me. That's what motivates me, right? But as far as children are concerned, I'm very passionate about children. And let's just say, I think I posted in yesterday's video on lesson 1 or 2, no child left behind, right? No child left behind is the reason why, and I'm not copying, former First Lady's slogan. I'm just using it as an example. All children are different, right? And I don't want one child to have access to this course because mom and dad could afford it, and another child not have access to it. It goes against my values. That's an example, right? So pricing was a big problem for me. It challenged me. I literally stayed stuck on producing my videos and getting this whole thing off the ground. I started RSquared in October of 2019. I only have one class launched, right? And it's free. So if that gives you an example of how stuck and in my head I was, I don't want to charge people unless they can afford it. The only way to find out if they can afford it is to let the option be theirs, right? So as an example, that's one thing for me that is I value. So in a romantic context, being with a man or a romantic partner that does not value seeing that spark in others and how they help other people, whether it's healing or, like I could totally vibe with a doctor, right? Or a surgeon or like a OBGYN that delivers babies. Totally vibe with that kind of profession that comes out of the delivery room and loves the only reason why they do it. It's not because their parents demanded that they go to medical school. The reason why they put themselves through medical school is because they live for the eyes of the family when they say they survived the surgery, they survived the difficult childbirth, you have a new baby boy, they made it through, they're gonna live, they're out of their coma, right? The surgery went well, things like that. If the doctor like thrives and the only reason why he spent all that money on college and med school and went through all of those, prerequisites to get a medical degree and license, is because that they live for that facial expression, the spark in the person's eyes when they tell them what they did changed a life in some way, right? That's me. Okay. So, however, on the flip, right? I couldn't be with somebody who had no value in that. They place no value in helping people or seeing a spark in their pep in their walk whatsoever. I can't vibe with that. Doesn't mean that I haven't, right? It just means that's why it didn't work out. I'm not looking for somebody that is exactly me. Maybe they have 5 of the characteristics and not the other 30, right? But if those 5 of the characteristics are highly valuable to me, then I'm going to love that person unconditionally, right? Because we have a common ground. And this is what we're talking about here. When you're dating and in relationships, that common ground of first knowing for yourself, self-love 101, what you want and what you value and who you are before seeking into the world to find it in others, then the divorce rate will drop. And for every person that watches this video before they get married, this class before they get married, the probability of divorce just decreased to 0, right? Or very close to it. Okay. So the next thing is data. I prefer, tell me and show me the data real quick. Let's draw a conclusion. I like streamlining data. I like streamlined data. I want to look at the data from a bird's eye view, draw a conclusion, and move on. I don't want to analyze the data. So this is super important when, I know Microsoft Excel, but you're not going to catch me finagling numbers and, I can do a pivot table. Doesn't mean I like to. I don't want to look at the data like that. I just want a streamlined approach. I've created pivot tables to bring back the streamline, right? That might be more applicable to what we're talking about here. All right, so learning individualized personal characteristics of a client, person, child, friend, or romantic partner, so I know how to help them, motivates me. Here we go. Now you know why I've always attracted narcissists, abusers. I'm an empath, okay? I'm also an introverted empath, okay? INFP, I'll go over what each of the 16 letters or the 4 letters mean in each acronym for the personality. But for me personally, if I see the good in the most evil person, okay? The most evil person, I will find good in, hands down, no doubt. And that would probably be why I'm not a legal prosecutor, right? Because I would suck. I would totally suck at prosecution, because I would be up there like, oh, come on. What happened to you as a child to make you murder and rape that girl? What? Right? So that's not for me. Right. Got it. So we're on the same, we have a level of understanding here. On the same page as me for this topic, not as a person. Right? Okay. So individualized personal characteristics on how to help people. So I would find what's wrong with my romantic partner, and then I would try to help them. What? I'm the fixer? I'm the fixer dater? The serial dater fixer. What? Well, now that I know this about me, about myself, I will make sure that I don't do my personality in dating, right? Instead, I will find equivalencies or common ground in the people that I date, and then do my personality in my work. Make sense? Or in how I, relate to children, or my own children, or my friends, or my family, right? So I want to see a whole person grow. So why I never became a school teacher, right? I want to see little Johnny grow as an entire person. The public school system, unfortunately, and probably even private school systems, like, religious schools, they have a curriculum to follow. And that's it. If you don't excel under their chart in their curriculum, then that's all they focus on. They focus on education, intellect, education, application of education. Well, nobody's looking at what little Johnny had to do, deal with at home last night. How emotionally traumatized little Johnny is because his mother died at 3 years old from cancer. How little Johnny is not able to cognitively understand math concepts because his mother smoked crack while she was pregnant with him. This is a whole person idea, not just little Johnny has behavioral issues, so I can't reward him with these cookies. Or I can't give him the opportunity for extra credit in math because he didn't do his homework last night. That's why I'm not a school teacher, right? Because that would not work for me. I would have a problem with that. Very, very deep problem with that. I would be digging deeper to find out why Johnny is failing math, why he has issues transposing numbers, why he is coming to school in rags and stinking, why his lunch daily. And I would be that lunchroom monitor that looks at everybody's lunch to see how whole it is, how complete it is, or what they're feeding them, right? I've never been the mom to make my children's lunch because my kids have always, eaten healthy. I don't have to worry about it. They're kids, right? But when you send a kid to school with a piece of bread, there's a problem with that, right? Or they're clearly losing weight. I digress. You get the point. Okay, so the whole person, the biopsychosocial upstream of psychology and health, right? Why are little Johnny's teeth rotting out? Let's go home and check out what's going on. Let's go to the house and find out why Johnny's not brushing his teeth regularly. Does Johnny have dental insurance? When was the last time he had a dentist appointment? What's going on upstream, downhill. What's trickling down from the top, right? So, okay, so that is my approach to data and relation to my environment and people. Let's talk about my stressors, okay? I would be very emotionally stressed, in complete duress, if my taking a stand on my ideas were belittled, right? Or ignored. If I don't get, and I don't want to say it's validation, but let's just say if I'll give you an example. If I were to, I think this has happened before. I took up for a kid in middle school who was in a wheelchair, and the girl that was being the bully to the kid in the wheelchair was literally just, the girl was crying, okay? And I could not for the life of me understand why, what is going on at home in this bully's world to make her project such anger onto a disabled individual. Oh, it infuriated me. I think I was like 12. I was so angry. So what did I do? Not even thinking about it, I made sure the girl in the wheelchair could see this, just so she could have her little justice in that moment in time. But I literally walked up to this girl, took her by her neck, and threw her up against the lockers in the hallway in front of everybody and said, "How do you feel that you can't fight back?" She was stunned that somebody actually stood up to her. I stand up for the underdog, okay? Now, I got in trouble for that. Now, that's my stressor. I took a stand for another person and their well-being in something I value, and I'm going to be ignored, or it's going to be ignored. You're going to belittle me by suspending me. What about the whole reason why I did it? I don't just walk up to random people and grab them by the throat and throw them up against the lockers, throw them up against the wall. I'm not a violent person. That person somebody needed to do something, right? I'm not the bully bystander. I'm the bully stand-upper to her. You follow? Okay, so watching others compromise their values, lie to themselves, not living as their true authentic selves, living inside their ego, hypocrisy, that really stresses me out. It actually brings pain to my heart. It really does. See, like, the biggest one is obviously the priests that molest little boys. Okay. Politicians that claim to be something they're not. Ugh. I don't even get into politics. I can't. It's so toxic to my soul. In fact, I was talking to my son about this today. It is so toxic to me to get into a political discussion when one or both sides of the coin have equal, whether they're equal or not, traces of hypocrisy. Not living, do what you say you're going to do. Nothing less. It's not hard. Be a man of your word. Be a woman of your word. Stop breaking plans with people. Do what you say you're going to do. I can see emergencies come up, whatever. But watching others be fake and compromise their own values stresses me out. How does this relate to my work? I am very passionate about domestic violence. I too was on the cycle, right? If you've been following me on any of the other videos or on social media, you know I was. I've also written 2 books about abuse, okay? If you see eye to eye with an individual currently in a domestic violence situation, it is difficult to, even though you've walked in their flip-flops, right? It is difficult to understand why they aren't doing what they need to do to empower themselves to leave that situation. Now, I understand that in the situation of when you're living it, when you're standing in the mud of domestic violence, okay, it is easy to get sucked in. I have always, all my life, been super passionate about abuse, okay? In fact, I three-pieced some guy as a teenager. It's not some guy, I'm not gonna say his name. For calling one of my best friends a whore at a party. She was crying. I lost control. I just literally ran up on him and bopped him in the face. Violent, yeah, violent. I was probably 18 at the time. Not really emotionally mature on my responses, especially since I grew up in an abusive household, right? So having said that, watching others compromise their value, it's like, now that I'm a certified advocate for survivors, it would be the same as watching myself live in a domestic violence situation ever again. That stresses me out. So that'll never happen again. Anyway, so I digress. Not able to talk to or be heard by a trusted friend when I need something, a more realistic perspective on whatever situation I'm going through, or I need a more logical way, because I don't do data, right? I want a bird's eye view, keep it moving. I don't do data. So I want a more logical way to a more logical way to proceed, because I would just go all for follow your heart, do what's good, don't take any risk, don't worry about the risks, jump right now, take that leap of faith, follow your heart, speak your truth, don't do anything that derails from what you believe in. Well, if I lived my life like that, and most of the time I have, right? If I did it in a logical way, if I made this move or took this risk in a logical, planned format, which I would only be able to get from a trusted friend that thinks like that, right? I would have then the balance needed between rational, irrational, analytical, or faith, right? Data, faith. Statistics, faith. Science, faith. I would have a more logical balance injected into whatever it was that I needed to decide upon. So, and not being able to communicate with stories stresses me out. So, what does that mean? Okay, all of my videos, I talk about a story, something I experienced. It's no surprise then whatsoever that I would have a million stories about abuse in my own life. Aha moment. This is why God, my creator, the divine, whoever it is, put me on, or if you want to follow my theory, this is why I chose, my soul chose my life, my experiences before I was born. So I would have these stories to share with you in my teaching approach, right? So if I didn't know what my personality was going to be, and neither did God before I was born. Or maybe I'm an INFP every lifetime after lifetime. I don't know. I have no idea. But if I chose this path in this soul, in this body before I was born, to have my mom and my dad and my friends and my experiences and my ex-husband and my ex-boyfriend and my stalker and my rapist, if I hadn't chose those, how would I talk about them? How would I teach on RSquared and do my personality and work toward a common good with my personality if I didn't have any stories that related to what I was talking about and who I was helping? So let's move on to what these 4 buckets are. And if you get on YouTube and just search Myers-Briggs personality type, you'll find thousands and thousands of videos, and even on Google, thousands and thousands of articles of how it's compartmentalized. And the best way I've seen it compartmentalized is a 4-seated car. Okay? Driver seat, passenger seat, back seat left, back seat right. Okay? That is the buckets that your personality, the 4 letters, go into. Okay? So, and it's also which order of operations that your mind works through your personality, your whole being, on how you decipher things and how you make decisions, and what you love and what you hate, what motivates you, what makes you thrive, what makes you happy, what brings you peace, right? So let's just talk about the first section. The first square, the first bucket, is extroversion or introversion. So okay, so extroverted, which is the E, a preference for gaining energy from activities or interactions with other people, the psychological opposite of introversion. Introversion, which is the I, a preference for gaining energy from time spent alone, solitude, and reflection on any in-depth activity, the psychological opposite of extroversion, right? The next is feeling, F, a preference for coming to judgments through consideration of the impact of each alternative on the people involved and on values, the psychological opposite of thinking. The next is intuition, N, a preference for gathering information through hunches, connections, analogies, before working with details or experience, the psychological opposite of sensing. Okay, so now we're gonna do sensing. Sensing is S, a preference for gathering information through the 5 senses, and through past experience before discerning themes or drawing conclusions, the psychological opposite of intuition. Okay, the next is judging, J, a preference for planning, sticking to the plan, and coming to closure, the psychological opposite of perceiving. So what's perceiving then? P, a preference for staying open to more information and the needs of the moment, the psychological opposite of judging. So a perceiver versus a judger, a perceiver will leave the options open, leave the scenery open. A judger will make a compound snap judgment. This is what it is, and that's it. That's it. So introverted, intuition, feeling, perceiver. And in these 2 personality roles, you can tell that based on what I just explained on the INFP, if I were to come into a relationship with an INFJ, for example, my daughter is an INFJ, we would butt heads on nothing else except for I feel judged all the time. And he or she would butt heads with me by feeling that I'm too in my feels. I'm too open, like I don't draw conclusions to see things as it is. I leave things open. It's undone. And that, this is what it is versus how dare you judge? Who are you to judge people? And that is the dynamic of those two personalities. Just to throw an example to you like that, right? So I am going to leave all of these 16 personalities in the resources below. And our next lesson, the next lesson that we have on the deck would be lesson 4. And in lesson 4, we are going to determine and analyze healthy, disruptive, unhealthy, toxic conceptions of what it means to love and be loved. Okay? So I will see you in the next lesson. Bye.